You need another minute?
Yes, please. Vaccines.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound. You are in the meeting now. There are 7 participants in the meeting.
Somebody has their speakers on.
On the computer? All right, we'll go ahead and get started. The time is now 6:30. Welcome to the Sunnyside Council regular meeting for Monday, September 13th, 2021. This meeting is being live streamed using a Zoom application. The council chambers at the Sunnyside Law and Justice Center is available for in-person attendees. Per current directives, all in-person attendees must wear a proper fitted mask and remain physically distanced. Masks are available if needed. Please allow one person to speak at a time.
You
I will.
are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself. Those who would like to unmute your mic. You can press *6 to unmute.
Child of Cancer Awareness in the city of Sunnyside. In testimony whereof, I have here answered in my hand and cause the seal of the city of Sunnyside to be affixed. Then at the city of Sunnyside, the 13th day of September, in the year of the Lord 2021. Okay, up next we have oath of office for our interim city manager, Alva. Jack, you know what, until we get Zoom connected and everything ready, or is it still good? Okay, looks like it came back on.
Councilor Sushi, can you hear us?
I can hear you now, yes. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
So we're gonna shift, so we're gonna repeat up front and do this, oath of office, oath of office. All right, so raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Elizabeth Alba,
I, Elizabeth Elba,
being first duly sworn upon oath,
being first duly sworn upon oath,
depose and say
depose and say
that I will well and truly perform the duties of the office of the city manager
that I will well and truly perform the duties of the office of city manager
of the city of Sunnyside,
of the city of Sunnyside,
Washington,
Washington,
to which I have been appointed, and
to which I have been appointed, and
that I will observe and uphold the ordinances
observe and uphold the ordinances
of the city of Sunnyside,
of the city of Sunnyside,
the statutes and constitution
the statutes and the Constitution
of the United States, of the state of Washington,
of the state of Washington,
and the constitution
and the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States
during my tenure in office as interim city manager.
during my tenure in office as interim city manager. Thank you so
It
much.
is official now.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I want a picture if you guys don't mind.
Sure, come on over.
Randy? Yeah. Yeah. You can get someone to take it, Mike can take it for me. You?
You want to get a sign?
Yeah, we can sign them. I'd have to stretch a little to reach over. Yeah, you're always probably reaching for people. No problem, please.
Okay, and next agenda item is going to be public comment. Note, citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to the council to 3 minutes. Council may refer items to staff, to review and or research for presentation at a future council meeting. Do you have anyone in our audience willing to give a public, comment thing? If you do, please approach the microphone and, state your name and city of residence. Any note takers in our audience? Madam City Clerk, do we have any emails or call-ins or letters? For the comments, okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is going to be the consent agenda. Council, the consent agenda consists of the minutes for the last, the July 12th and July 26th meeting, payroll vouchers and claim vouchers. Is there any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I have some.
Go ahead, sir. Do you have an item to pull, or do you have?
I want to pull one.
Pull, which one is it?
I'm going to go to B and voucher number 13475, which was a check to Martin Casey for $17,780.63.
Would you like an explanation for that item?
Yes. I have read his contract, and I personally do not see any reason why we need to pay him. He resigned, he wasn't terminated, and I think that we don't owe him the money. I might have some comments after this acting city manager speaks, but that's the reason why.
Absolutely. Madam City Clerk, I'm sorry. I'm gonna tell you the city manager, because the whole thing is too long.
I agree.
City manager.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This represents his final payout of his vacation and administrative leave. Does not represent anything more than what, any other city employee would be entitled to if they leave willingly or leave as being discharged. So this is his final payment on his final paycheck.
Okay, so this is not any pay that he will be getting as a severance, is that correct?
That is correct. His next severance pay would have been on the 10th of September. That would be his first severance paycheck, which you haven't seen yet for council.
Okay. That's fine then, I'll accept that.
All right, so items good to stay on the agenda then? So any additional questions or comments on the consent agenda, council? Hearing no additional questions or comments, what is the desire of council?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Deputy Mayor Borsma, second by Councilor Hicks to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any debate on this item? Hearing no debate, can we get roll call, please?
Mayor Guerrero,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burisma,
Yes.
Councilor Ritucci,
Yes.
Councilor Beeler,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Motion passes for our consent agenda. Thank you, council. Up next, we have an active agenda, which consists of initially our first, two executive sessions, 50 minutes total for RCW 4.30.110, parentheses 1, parentheses I, to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to agency enforcement actions, or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is, or is likely to become a party. Public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. The second part of the executive session is going to be RCW.42.30.140, parentheses 4, parentheses B. That portion of a meeting during which the governing body is planning or adopting the strategy or position to be taken by the governing body to enforce of any collective bargaining, professional negotiations, or grievance, or mediation proceedings, or reviewing the proposals made in the negotiations or proceedings while in progress. There may be possible action after the consent agenda, after the executive session, sorry. I will now ask the city clerk to place our guests in the virtual waiting room, and anyone present in the council chambers to please exit the building until the executive session has ended. Madam City Clerk, will you please allow the colleagues back in the room after the meeting is over, okay? So, Jackie, let me know when you're ready, we'll start the executive session at that time, please.
I'm going to start the meeting with the virtual guest in the waiting room.
So this is just a meeting.
And then I'm going to block the meeting. So we have, in the virtual meeting, we have, me, Elizabeth, City Manager Alba, Councilor Ritucci, Mayor Burisma, and Ferguson, and Mayor Guerrero. And stop the live stream. Stop the recording on Zoom.
Because we're in special section.
And everything is that's live, Mayor.
Madam City Clerk, and, no action was taken during the executive session. We do have a couple items we're gonna be covering, which is going to be memorandum of understanding, IAFF Local 3542. Consider authorizing the interim city manager to sign memorandum of understanding with IAFF Local 3542 setting forth the mandate vaccination requirements set forth by Governor Jay Inslee and setting the terms of the compensation. Council members, we'll vote on it. Actually, we'll see if anyone has questions or comments on this item. Council members, questions or comments on, item B of our agenda? Hearing none in the-
I'll ask the question. What happens if we don't require mandated vaccinations with our fire department? What's that going to do with our level of coverage, their ability to work, especially on the medical side of it? What's that gonna do to us as a city?
I don't know, I can't speak to the volunteer, aspect of it, the group. But right now, I know there was only 4 of the career staff that had not gotten vaccinated. And then my understanding this morning was that 2 more one got it this weekend and 1 more was getting it today. There's still a couple that were outstanding, and last I heard from them, I believe they were gonna put in for accommodation. So assuming that they do meet the accommodation requirements, then there'll be no impact, at least on the career side.
So Chief, what I'm hearing you say is that there is a possibility that if they're morally opposed to getting a vaccine, there is a pathway for them to not.
Well, the only options are, there's 4 laws that the governor cannot sort of override there at the federal level, 2 of them. American with Disabilities Act and Title VII, the Civil Rights Act. So we are offering the staff under the mandate. They have basically 3 options. It's either get vaccinated, receive an accommodation under the title, religious accommodation, or American with Disabilities accommodation, or not work in the healthcare setting. So yes, there's an option.
Councilor Stucci, any questions or comments on this item?
No questions or comments, Mr. Mayor.
It sounds like the majority of our, firefighters, EMS, are choosing to get vaccinated, it sounds like. So, do we have a small amount that was choosing not to? What is that, how many, total employees do we have?
Out of total, well, I'll just talk about the ones that are relevant to the MOU. Of that group, there's 19, yes, and of those, I was informed that there was only 4 prior to this last weekend that had not been vaccinated. And since then, my understanding is that 2, that should leave 2 out. I know of 1 for sure, actually has already given me the request for accommodation, and I'm at least 1 outstanding.
I just want to say thanks to those firefighters and EMS staff who are choosing to obviously take the vaccine and then be protected themselves, protect the people they help. So I just want to say thank you to them.
I'll pass that on.
My question is, did they take the vaccine in fear of being fired, or did they take the vaccine because they wanted it?
If I may, in negotiating with the union, it was expressed to me that it was the ones that had wanted to get the vaccine had already gotten it. So the ones that were being mandated were those last 4 that we're discussing earlier.
I know a lot of hospitals are firing people for not taking the vaccine.
But we hope the MOU gets us in the right direction.
Additional questions or comments?
Comment that I find it impossible for me to vote in favor of a mandate. I don't like the term. I don't like what it implies. I understand the reasoning behind it. Once again, I'm in favor of encouraging. I'm in favor of providing information. I am not in favor of commanding them to do something. Right, that's where I find myself.
And this is just a memorandum of understanding, this is not a mandate, is that correct? We're not mandating them to take the vaccine, we're giving them an option, is that correct?
Well, we're following the governor's executive order is what we're doing. And his is a mandate. So in some ways, yes, we are following a mandate, but we are putting a mechanism in place for our firefighters to have options available to them that they may not otherwise have.
Okay. sounds like it is a mandate with, MOU.
Correct.
Okay. So, is that correct? It is a mandate, basically. Council members, additional questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll not.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
What is the city doing for the police department and the rest of the employees of the city?
When we receive more guidance, police department right now is not subject to this executive order or this mandate, but I know the president has issued directions that he is going to do this through OSHA. If that comes down, then the city will have to bargain with the other union member employees for working condition changes. And I've read preliminarily that if the city doesn't comply and have their employees in compliance, we'll have a $14,000 fine per employee that we continue to employ without vaccination.
Are we breaking the law if we do not, pass this, since the governor has said you have to?
Yes, actually, it is a misdemeanor, I believe. I want to look, I'd have to look it up, but there is punishment for this not being mandated, and it would come down to me.
Go against our oath, the Constitution. Doesn't it go against our oath to uphold the Constitution?
I think that, by going against the mandate, we are, failing to uphold the Constitution, that we are given an oath to hold. I think that because we're giving options in this particular case, I think we're probably settling somewhere in the middle, which should be, if there's testing available, even if they don't want to get the vaccination, there is that allowance. Am I not right?
Correct.
So if they get the vaccination, that's one thing. If they don't want to get it, they just are tested on a routine basis. Correct?
Is that, yes, go ahead.
We actually haven't determined the accommodation yet. The accommodation is solely up to the employer's discretion. Basically.
So that's our job.
That's correct. And so, right now, we've actually been working through the county fire chiefs have all been working together. Basically, I'm not committed to it yet till it's finalized, but right now, it would fall within our EMS operation protocols. But right now, it's leaning towards, reasonable accommodation. It shouldn't cause undue hardship on any employee. If they're eligible, the problem is they have to meet one of those, eligible criteria for the accommodation, which is having a medical condition that allows them to qualify under the American Disabilities Act or a really sincerely held religious belief in opposition to the vaccine.
All right.
Council, what is your desire on this item?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the authorization of the city manager to sign the memorandum of understanding with the IAFF Local 3542, as set forth in this mandated vaccination requirement set forth by the Governor, Jay Inslee, and setting the terms of compensation.
We have a second? Go ahead and second that. Motion by Councilor Hart, second by Mayor Guerrero, to authorize the city manager, the interim city manager, to sign the memorandum of understanding with IAFF Local 3542, setting forth the mandate vaccination requirements set forth by Governor Jay Inslee and setting the terms of compensation. Is there any debate on this item?
And in support of the passage of the memorandum of understanding, I would think that having the memorandum in place would be better than being fined an exorbitant amount of money per employee, which is our other option if we do not come up with something that we set.
I want to second that also, and also mention that obviously the bulk of our staff there at the fire department chose to get the vaccine, so they see the value in it. they see the benefit of it, and, as far as I'm concerned, you know, obviously another councilor said that they already got vaccinated, so they saw the value in it for themselves. Again, it's not for everyone, but in this situation, it sounds like, the both of these individuals who are highly trained and educating health services, obviously, in an emergency response, they chose to do so. So I want to just thank them again for their service and also for choosing to take the vaccine this time around.
Mr. Mayor, I have no problem with, compensating them for the vaccination. I have a problem with mandated.
They gave them options, but your options are disability or religious belief. Not really an option.
Well,
I guess, what's the alternative? If we don't pass this, Madam, City Manager, what happens if we don't, pass this, memorandum of understanding? What are the consequences, I guess, for the city now?
I'm trying to read up on it, but I know, Jameson, did you not send me an email on this regarding the legal recourse?
Yeah, there is an RCW that sets out that, failing to comply with a proclamation, with an order under a proclamation from the governor is, as, the city manager said, subject to a gross misdemeanor. And so I'm not sure, and basically, the governor's order is not written in a way to mandate the vaccination. It is written in a way that prohibits employers from employing people in these positions that do not have the vaccination. So, so basically, it's not any individual that is being required to get it. It is the city's responsibility to ensure that we're not employing anyone in these fields that doesn't have it. And if we do, then we are running afoul of the law.
In this case, those individuals who are not vaccinated would be the ones who would be, in essence, out of compliance.
Correct.
So are you saying then, pardon me, I don't mean to be out of order. Are you saying then that if we have some sort of wording that strongly encourages employees to be vaccinated, like our firefighters, that's not good enough?
The way that his order and the proclamation is written is such that the city just simply cannot employ people in these positions that do not have the vaccination. So we don't have to do a memorandum, but we still cannot employ the people if they don't get these. So you could elect not to pass this, but I believe, if I'm out of line, please, city manager, stop me, but I believe that one of the reasons that we wanted to do this was to compensate them for sometime, in some way, going and doing something that they weren't necessarily, some of them weren't necessarily on board with immediately. This gives them some monetary recourse for going and taking that action.
Mr. Mayor, so I'm not entirely clear on this or not, but you're talking about new employees. The mandate applies to new employees.
The mandate applies to all employees in the position of firefighter/EMT, or more specifically, the EMT side.
Okay.
Not necessarily a firefighter. It's anyone that is in the EMT field.
Okay, I wasn't clear on that, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple more thoughts here also. As I said before, I would be in favor of compensating them because we are changing the contract. But we also open the door. If they get it, everybody else in the city is going to say, look at him, they got it. They got extra money because they were vaccinated. So I think that's something we need to consider. But I go back to what I said before. Like I say, I have no problem with this. The only problem I have is mandated. If we can rewrite this where mandated is taken out of it, that would be fine. I could support it.
When we wrote the MOU, we were very much cognizant of the fact that we put on there every time it said mandate that it came from government. The mandate is not from the city of Sunnyside, so the MOU, everywhere where you see it, says mandated by Governor Jay Inslee. We know that this is not our mandate. This is a mandate that has been put on our city and our staff. This isn't something that we, could change. And let me give you an example. Firefighters are subject to hepatitis, series, and I believe that is a series that they're required to take. Is that correct?
Voluntary.
It is voluntary. They can opt out.
Yeah. They have to opt in, actually.
They have to opt in.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are other things that we deal with, all the time in this line of work. There are things that they have to do. The way the governor has set this up is it's basically saying, if you do not have this piece of paper, you're not qualified to do your job anymore. Almost like saying, if you don't have your EMT license or you don't have something that you hold in your hand, you're not qualified for the job. We aren't mandating this, and it's very clear in this MOU that this is not us. Firefighters bargained in good faith, and they really honestly understand that this is not coming from the city. They knew that. They've talked about it. They know that we aren't at all saying this is something we want to do. This is something we're required to do.
Be forced to do and fire people that don't comply.
Can you speak up and to the microphone, Mr. Lee?
Is that something we're being forced to do and to fire people that don't comply?
That's a possible outcome. I'm hoping it's not one.
I completely understand where it's coming from, from obviously the compensation piece, obviously working with numbers, I do see where he's coming from as far as everybody else is gonna want to have, you know, a piece of the pie in a sense, even though it's coming from the rescue plan, the money that's coming from the Fed, if it's a way for us to encourage other departments to do so, and their money coming from this pool of money from the federal government to begin with, I see some value there, so obviously I do feel that it's something that we can work with. I feel comfortable with this MOU, so it's obviously a tough one. It's something that is not something we want to manage on individuals, and like our city manager said, it's not us, it's not the city, it's not council. It's our governor saying that we have to do so, and, you know, that's something that we gotta consider whether we're gonna move forward or not, so. There's something to on this item.
Yeah, if the governor's doing this, why is he making us do this?
I believe it's because we're the employer of
Correct.
the city. But, obviously, yeah, we understand, yeah, why not go direct from the governor's office, but he's doing it through their employer, which is, in this case, the city of Sunnyside, and we are the ultimate authority there, you know, right, above Ms. Alba, who's the city manager. So, does that sound about right?
And actually, if you read their frequently asked questions on the governor's website, the governor says that the choice was made to go through an employer because the state is the largest employer. And that was how he could mandate this.
Well, other governors across the United States decided not to go with this. What are we gonna do in 5 years when we find out there was a problem with this COVID shot and we made everybody take this COVID shot? Oh, there's gonna be lawsuits to pull back the president's mandates, and if that happens, we've already basically forced our people to do something they didn't wanna do, and there's no coming back from that.
Totally understand that at this point, the governor has issued this, and we are at a standstill unless we do what we're supposed to do.
I honestly think terminology could be changed to make it palatable to everybody, and instead of referring to it as a mandate, where the city of Sunnyside strongly encourages and will compensate employees who choose to get the vaccination. You know, the term mandate still is incredibly offensive to me on a number of levels. Maybe it's just my own stubbornness, I don't know. But we can change the terminology and say, hey, this is what you gotta do. And I think firefighters all understand, those who are involved in the EMT's side of it, that the state won't allow us to employ them any longer if they don't get it. So it's not something that we have to write in there. I understand what you're saying in compliance with the governor's, I mean, they have that in there all the time. But, it's just something flashed through my head that, just following orders is never a defense. I don't think as, in the military, if I was just following orders, it's still not a defense in a legal court. So, I think we're capable of changing the terminology or the verbiage in here to make it palatable to all of us. And still get the job done.
Council, additional debate on this item? Hearing no additional debate, can we get a roll call, please?
Mayor Neville,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burisma,
No.
Councilor Tucci,
Yes.
Councilor Beeler,
No.
Councilor Hicks,
No.
Councilor Farmer,
No.
Councilor Hart.
yes,
Mayor, you have 3 yes votes and 4 no votes.
Okay, item is, no go on this item, so at this point, is there anything we can do, City Manager?
So at this point, our next steps would be to meet with the union again to discuss with them any changes in contract language, then that would need to be vetted with the firefighters and also ran to our city attorney. So it's possible we could get this back on the agenda by the 27th. One of the factors that I failed to mention is there's a time frame on the shots. If the Moderna shot, if they don't get it by tomorrow, they have no chance of being fully vaccinated by the 18th as mandated, unless they take the Johnson & Johnson. If we do not, since we did not pass this, they will have to take their chances on the fact that we will at the next meeting, that we won't have met the deadline for any of the staff.
So, council, for what I'm hearing, and from a couple of you guys anyways, is, as long as we're able to change the wording on this as mandate, will look more, well, sound more powerful, that's what I heard. So is that kind of what I'm hearing, from the council as well? Is that something we need to have as, our city manager go back with the firefighter union and kind of negotiate that? Is that kind of what I'm hearing? You're one nodding head, a couple no,
I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where I'm coming from.
okay? Sounds like we got a couple in favor that would put us over the threshold, so if we can look at that and bring it back, see if there's something council feels more in favor of.
Okay.
All right, thank you, council. The motion does not pass. Okay, so, motion does not pass. Up next, we have our ESPC facility update. Consider authorizing the intercity manager to execute an interagency agreement with the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services to conduct a feasibility study and investment grade audit for a citywide energy upgrade. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Burrow. We had at our workshop meeting a presentation from Amoresto, and the Department of Enterprise Services was also there. We have identified very many places in our city that could use some energy upgrades. We would be looking at doing LED light replacement at any city facility and also on our city-owned utility poles that have city. Then we would also be looking at HVAC at City Hall, on Justice Center, the Community Center, the Senior Center, the museum, and the Public Works Service Center. So basically, every single facility would have a walkthrough, and they would basically look through to see what we could do for energy savings to pay for these upgrades. So this ESPC, which is Energy Savings Performing Contract, is a budget neutral approach. So this would be no out of pocket, and we would be able to get building improvements and reduce our energy use. The item I'm bringing tonight is our contract with Department of Enterprise Services. As it just gets the process started. There is no commitment on the city's part. There's no out of pocket on the city's part. What would happen then is you would allow me to sign the contract, and then Amoresto would come in and start the feasibility study. Again, there is no cost to us of the feasibility study as well. They will go through and do a citywide audit and conduct a return on equity, basically, to make sure that, or return on investment, to make sure that it is actually feasible for us to do these projects.
Thank you for the report. And council, questions or comments on this item?
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, as inasmuch as this will not cost us any money, but it will give us an idea of where we're in need of it, and we probably already know, but it'd be nice to have an audit so to be sure of where LED lights and our city poles and the different buildings, especially with HVAC. Thank you very much. I was want to say it all out, HVAC. I'm in favor of us agreeing to, have the city manager, execute contract with.
What I was gonna say was pretty much the same thing, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, the audit's necessary to have a full understanding of everywhere that these upgrades are needed and what the potential benefits are going to be. And, this will continue what we started with the streetlights with Pacific Power over the last couple of years and the upgrades to our streetlights. It's going to improve lighting in our buildings. I mean, this evening, we've been able to watch the flickering fluorescent lights in here,
And go up.
where ballasts and starters and those sorts of things are all going out. That doesn't happen with the LED upgrades. It's going to be an improvement not only in this facility, but in all city buildings, and I think that in itself is a great upgrade, plus the remaining streetlights that still need to be changed over. And then we haven't even started talking about the HVAC upgrades, which are definitely necessary as well. So I think this is all around a great thing for us.
Great thing.
Mayor, I think it's a great thing. They're doing this free. They're doing this on their dime. Then they come to us and they tell us what they think we would save the most money, and we're not binded into accepting that, but we have the choice to. And I like if we.
To, coin the phrase, to me, this is a no-brainer. I don't think we have anything to lose here.
Any additional questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I was impressed with Amoresco when I saw them at the AWC conference. It's one of the reasons why I recommended they contact our city manager. I think this is a great opportunity for the city, and I encourage my colleagues to support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council, what's your desire on this item?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilor Wheeler, second by Councilor Hart, to authorize the interim city manager to execute an interagency agreement with Washington State Department of Enterprise Services to conduct a feasibility study and investment grade audit for a citywide energy upgrade. Is there any debate on this item? Hearing no debate, Madam City Clerk, can you please do roll call, please?
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yep.
Councilor Wheeler,
Yes.
Councilor Rasucci,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burisma,
Yes.
Mayor Guerrero,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Motion passes. Thank you, council. Up next, we have, the public hearing. So SMC 2.02 Corner Special Fee Updates, public hearing. Receive public comments on the SMC 2.02 Corner Special Fee Update. An introduction, this public hearing is being held to receive public comments on the SMC 2.02 Corner Special Fee Update. The appearance of fairness disclosure. The concern is that this hearing be fair, informed, and substance as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have a conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Council members, can you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? If your answer is no, please speak now. Audience members, at this time we ask the audience if there are any objections to my participation or any other council member's participation in these proceedings. The public was asked to submit objections or comments by email and none were received. Is there anyone in the audience who objects to my participation or any council member's participation? no takers, the public hearing is now open at 7:37. Madam City Manager.
Not sure what I'm supposed to report. I can pass it on to Mike Shuttleworth, our planning director. Thank you.
First, I want to apologize for not being here last week. I was at a conference and I tried to come in, but internet where I was at wasn't out there for that. I know there were some questions from last week. One was about commercial coaches. Those are actually mobile homes for commercial and industrial use. The commercial code is a state definition, so basically it would be like the school, portable office building, that kind of, that's what the commercial code. Our current code doesn't really address those, so we've been. I know there were some concerns about fee increases. One of the things I know that got quite a bit of discussion was the inspection of the 8140. That is a fee that we would charge for somebody who wanted out of normal hours inspection, and that would basically cover the cost for our inspectors to go out. Our position that we have, but the cost the city does, not their normal fees would be part of the building permit fee. The additional inspection fee is just out of the normal. One is that it was sometimes like the school, they have a project where they want an inspection on a Saturday or something like that. So it's very seldomly used, but it's there in case. There's a plumbing and all of those things so that we can cover our costs when we have to.
And I believe Jameson has a report out on the fee comparison.
Yes. So as you can see, the fees are kind of all over the board. Some of those are more expensive than others. But I think comment that we haven't raised ours in a long time, neither has obviously the only one. They actually do it on a yearly basis. Look at there, they have a very large resolution. They don't go to ordinance, they do like that. And then to kind of compare numbers and numbers, a lot of times, like one of them, the sign permit fee, we adopted the sign ordinance, but we didn't adopt the fee. What we've been doing in the interim is actually charging them a fine. Once we do this, adopt this, we will actually just charge them the $75 fine fee as opposed to do an X, people will actually pay less. That's the same with some of these others, like demolition permit and roofing permits. Right now, roofing permits are based on the value of the roofing. Trying to a lot of people doing their own roofs. And so what is that value? So it's not $1,000, it's probably 2 inspections. We do a tear-off inspection and a final inspection. We figure about $125 would cover those two. You don't have to do a plan review or anything like that. See, everybody will pay that way, everybody's paying the same. With demolition permit, demolition, well, Joe charges this much, but Fred charges that much, and a big difference between the two. One of the reasons for it look like we're raising them, but we're actually not. Lowering them, you know. Question?
Let's see if anyone in the audience has any, is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this, public hearing? No takers from our, audience, so we'll go on to council members. Any questions or comments on this item?
Oh,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, as I said at our workshop meeting, it has been a long time since we've addressed these fees. And as we worked through to find comparisons and to see where we can make them as equitable as possible going forward, I appreciate the effort that's gone into that. I know that there was some discussion of whether some of these might be kind of brought up in a incremental kind of method, you know, instead of jumping all the way to the top right away, maybe bring it up a little bit and then put it on a resolution, perhaps like Topfish is doing, where they are routinely examined for future, to make sure that we are doing the best by our citizens with some of these fees. But in any case, I am really thankful that you've gone through and taken a look at all those, because there, like you said, there were many of them that hadn't been changed in years and years. Some of them maybe just needed a little tweaking. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, when it was presented last week, I was shocked, to say the least, of the amount of what we were going to raise a lot of these fees. And when we asked for comparisons, I think we fall right in. We're higher on some and lower on some, so I think we fall right in. I agree with Councilmember Hart that we shouldn't wait so long to adjust our fees. We don't get the sticker shock that way that people have. I appreciate the work that you've done on it, and this chart here brings a favorable light in my mind at what we got to do.
This will automatically look at it every year and make sure that we're on track with everybody else. One-shot deal, we're gonna forget about it for 10.
If I may. Under the city code, we are actually authorizing, or is authorized, that the city manager can increase rates up to 6% without council approval. And last year, Martin chose to raise anything in 2.02 that made sense by 5%. So that is our plan going forward every year, so that when they're in 2.02, they're easy to find, they're easy to be recognized, and then those changes would be made administratively by the city manager.
That kind of answered the question I was going to ask, because I know Ms. Hart brought up the incremental adjustments, and everybody else has kind of mentioned that as well. I was just wondering if it's possible to index that to, you know, some, you know, the rate of inflation or whatever else we index other things, but it looks like you've already got that planned out. So thank you for the hard work you guys have done on this, because yeah, as has been said, it's been some time since these fees have been looked at, and in other communities they're used to paying fees, and I think that these inspection fees, especially as in building inspections and those types of things, are necessary. I have seen where buildings have been improperly worked on, and I've seen some of the results of that, so I think the inspections are important. Fees that go along with that, I think we're in line, so well done.
Additional questions from council members? Councilor Stucci, any questions on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor, most of the questions were asked are answered, and I kind of believe the same thing that my colleagues believe. This has been a long time coming. We need to make sure that we keep our rates up, you know, that they're commensurate with the other cities in the valley, as well as, you know, the industry standards. So I welcome this, Mr. Mayor, and I thank staff for the work that they did.
Council, anyone else? Questions, comments? If there's no questions or comments, the public hearing is now closed at 7:47 p.m. Okay, up next we have SMC 2.02 core inspection fee update. Consider approving an ordinance amending SMC 2.02G to include fee schedule for building, plumbing, mechanical, and grading permits. Madam City Manager.
This is the official action to propose results of the public hearing. This is the ordinance that would in fact create 3.02 and move all of the new fees instead.
Council members, questions or comments on this agenda item? Hearing no questions or comments, what is the desire of council on this item?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Councilor Wheeler to approve an ordinance amending SMC 2.02G to include a fee schedule for building, plumbing, mechanical, and grading permits. Is there any debate on this item? In our debate, Madam City Clerk, will you do roll call vote, please?
Counselor Hurst,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burisma,
Yes.
Counselor Tucci,
Yes.
Counselor Wheeler,
Yes.
Mayor Guerrero,
Yes.
Counselor Farmer,
Yes.
and Counselor Hicks.
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Motion passes, thank you. Up next, we have item, F on our agenda, which is going to include U.S. Solar Small Cell 5G franchise agreement, public hearing number 1. Receive public comment on the U.S. Solar Small Cell 5G franchise agreement, public hearing number 1. This public hearing, is being held to receive public comment on the U.S. Solar Small Cell 5G franchise agreement. This is public hearing number 1. The appearance of fairness disclosure. The concern is that the hearing be fair, informed, and substance, as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have a conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Council members, can you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? If your answer is no, please speak now. Audience members, at this time, we will ask the audience if there are any objections to my participation or any other council members' participation in these proceedings. The public was asked to make objections or comments by email and none were received. Is there anyone in the audience who objects to our participation? Hearing none, public hearing is now open at 7:50 p.m. At this time, we will hear from our city manager, if we receive any comments from the public for this hearing, or if there are any citizens here to comment. Do we get any comments at all? Am I aware of? No? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Let's first get a staff report and then we'll move on to that section. Madam City Manager, is there, just pass this on, or are you gonna just report on this item?
So I'm actually going to report out on it, and Mike Shuttleworth will be real free to interrupt me if I give something. So this item is for U.S. Cellular to come in and use our light poles or anything that is in the public right-of-way to hang their 5G equipment. This is the first of 2 public hearings, and we would have a franchise agreement with them, and they would basically pay us rent on the pole once this agreement comes through.
Council members, questions? Actually, let's go to our audience first. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this agenda, on this public hearing? You take it, we'll go to council members. Any questions or comments on this item from our council members?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, sir.
Do we know what they're gonna hang on city property? Do we know if it's gonna take away from our beautiful plants and our beautiful lighting down there? Are they gonna submit requests to put things up, or we just give them carte blanche and what they do is what they do and we have to deal with it?
Jackie is getting into the documentation. There was a document that's the small cell project overview. It has photographs of what they look like. I will pass it down so you all have a chance to see it, and I will make sure that the city clerk gets a copy of it. They are very small and unobtrusive, and they do not look like they would interfere with the pleasant look of our city. And the proposed locations are also on there.
I might have to, one of the criteria we have to follow is the federal law. There was a federal law passed that specifically says what we can and can't do with related to 5G. What it was the FCC kind of took away some of our local controls because they wanted to make sure they get 5G across the United States and without every jurisdiction kind of replicate. But these are very small antennas that will go up. Normally it's an antenna, probably a conduit and a box of some sort so they can connect to their cell phone system. Normally they put them a lot more often than they do the large towers, but they're like, you know, it'd be something connected onto a cell phone pole or a light pole or some other pole within the right of way, but they also have to get permit for each one of them. So this is just allowing us to enter into those permits with them.
Do they have a range on what one antenna covers?
Yes, they do have a range. We can't control what that range is. That's up to their technology.
We do have a representative from US Cellular on Zoom if you would like her to clarify anything.
Council leader, any questions?
Yes, I'm Carrie Lindenberg, and I'm with US Cellular.
Hello, Carrie, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Councilor, if you have specific questions for Carrie or for our city manager, they are here. And then additional questions from council?
The only comment I have, Mr. Mayor, is this has been a long time coming. It's been part of our discussion for a number of years now. I know Mr. Restucci has been working to educate us on 5G and on the process, and obviously he's fairly knowledgeable about that as well. You know, and it's also the subject of all sorts of rumors on the internet and Facebook groups and that sort of thing about invasions of privacy and that sort of thing. I think that they've got that covered. But this is something that is going to come, and it's been slowed down by court decisions and lawsuits and those sorts of things, but this is the plan, and most of our smartphones are and have been 5G compatible for some time. And I've had the opportunity to connect to a 5G system before, and wow. So yeah, I think this is where we're going to be.
Additional questions or comments on this item?
I just want to add to Mr. Boersma's comments that having more capability with our communications is something that, as a growing city, we really need to be on top of. And we have this opportunity to provide our citizens with yet one more level of communication skills. I'm really in favor of that. So I'm sorry.
If I may speak briefly, my name's Kay Johnson, and I'm assisting US Cellular with this project. I did want to clarify that this particular stage, this particular project, is not actually 5G at this time. It lays the groundwork for 5G, and it will increase your, it does build out the infrastructure to improve service. But this particular deployment is not actually the 5G stage at this point. It's laying the groundwork by moving to the small cells, which work with the macro towers. I just wanted to clarify that so there wasn't a misconception.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
No, thank you.
Council members? I do have one question. Obviously, in the past, we talked about our older tower systems, about how they are somewhat of they stand out. So is there any way to do any aesthetically pleasing changes to these items so they don't look like boxes up in the air? They look like like a sunflower, since that's our official city, or something of that nature. I'm not sure where we would go with it, but I guess, they look small enough that they won't look so bad, and they're not in every single light pole. But I did not read anything in the document that said anything about making it, that being an option, you know, I don't know, painting it yellow or making it look like, I don't know, something that's not just a box, a gray box up in the sky. Is there any option for that, or is that, something that the feds say, you cannot regulate that because that's just too much?
Well, the installation is, as you mentioned, it is very small. If you scroll down on that page, it gives you an idea with a map of what the rough ideas of locations are. We're still in the planning stage for trying to determine the best locations. These are small footprints, small coverage areas, and they interact with the existing large towers you already have. And so we will try to pick locations that are the least obtrusive, that work with our needs as well. We are trying to be good citizens aesthetically, as well as, you know, from a business and infrastructure standpoint. So, you know, depending on the location, if you're, for instance, in a historic district, and I don't think any of these are, you know, we will work with the needs as they are required. But the installations themselves are relatively unobtrusive, particularly in line with other existing infrastructure. And we do try to stay away from anything where, you know, there's existing like beautification projects or something that we try to make sure that we're that we're working with the aesthetic as it is.
And these are gonna be small enough that they're not gonna be more intrusive than existing transformers on telephone poles or, you know, boxes from the telephone company, those types of things. So they will pretty much fit in with existing utilities. And I would much rather see these smaller ones than the large towers.
I'm sorry, but now you mentioned transformers, yeah, pretty much in every other pole, so that does make sense. All right, well, thank you for that answer. Council members, additional questions on this public hearing?
Yeah, like, right here where we're sitting, the police department, I don't see any around there. Does that mean they're not going to get 5G when it cursor is Homer Street? Like it's ways away if you look at the distance between the car. They don't go all the way to the police department.
Sir, you got an answer for that as far as the location? Is that just like a starting point, or is this something that's gonna grow eventually to more locations?
Yeah, so when we do come back through with 5G, there may be more locations based on like coverage and capacity needs. And I'm not sure, but this area particularly might be served by a macro tower too.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Rivera?
Yes, it does.
Council members, any additional, comments on this item? Okay, hearing no additional comments, I will close this public hearing at, 8 p.m. So we have another public hearing coming up since it was number one, so we'll look forward to that when that comes around. Up next on the agenda, we have, item G, which is 2022 official newspaper. Consider approving a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Sunnyside Sun as an official city newspaper for 2022. Madam City Manager.
Give this to Clerk Vandalia so she can,
So we requested proposals for the 2022 official newspaper for the city of Sunnyside. This is where we record our public hearing notices and any legal notice. And we received proposals from Tri-City Herald, Yakima Herald Republic, and the Sunnyside Sun. And based on the circulation numbers and the rate of publishing, I think that it's best that we go with Sunnyside Sun. So, ask for your support with that decision.
Hey, council members, questions or comments on this agenda item?
Mr.
I
Mayor,
think it,
I'm sorry, Mr. Farmer, go ahead.
go ahead, Counselor.
Councilor Suchi, go ahead. Farmers, is okay with going afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer, for yielding. My question is, did the clerk recommend that we use the Sunnyside Sun for our paper of record?
Yes,
Okay, that's a 1 day a week paper now, correct?
Correct.
Does that meet the requirements for the Public Records Act? Or the OPMA, excuse me?
Yes.
It does. Okay. That's all I need to know, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilor Farmer?
I think anytime we can support a local business, it's great, and I would totally support this.
Any questions or comments on this item, council?
And if you look on the screen, it has the bid tally sheet where it says it meets, the RCW, the publication frequency. I'm sorry, my screen wasn't showing. But, you can see the circulations for Sunnyside numbers. And then the rates. And they do publish once a week, but we usually don't have a hard time getting something squeezed in. I'll usually message the legal department, and they try their best to squeeze things in if it's a last minute item. So we have a good working relationship with them since we've used them in previous years.
Council members, additional questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, what is the desire of council?
Move to approve. This is Councilor Restucci.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Burma?
Yes.
Motion by Councilor Restucci, second by by Deputy Mayor Burma to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Sunnyside Sun as official city newspaper for 2022. Is there any debate on this item? Hearing no debate, Madam City Clerk, will you do a roll call vote on this, please?
Councilor Beeler?
Yes.
Mayor Guerrero?
Yes.
Councilor Hart?
Yes.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Restucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burisma?
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Motion passes. Thank you, council. Up next, we have item H, interim city manager residency waiver. Consider approving a resolution waiving the provisions of RCW 35A.13.050, requiring the city manager to reside inside the city limits and extend those residency requirements to the city of Sunnyside urban growth area. Madam City Manager.
Well, just as you read, this is just allowing me to live outside the city limits while I am interim city. And just for your situational awareness, I live literally 2 minutes from here and 3 minutes from Safeway and 5 minutes from the city hall in case of how much traffic there is. So I am so close to the city limits that if we have an annexation across the street, I probably could annex to get inside too.
Councilors, questions or comments on the agenda item?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one point of information. The agenda that I have in front of me says interim city manager residency waiver. And then the description says, consider authorizing the interim city manager to execute a contract with Columbia Pipe Pumping and Construction Incorporated to install approximately 925 feet of 24-inch pipelining.
Is that the one online?
Item H, that's what it says on mine. So I just want to make sure we clarify that.
Does anyone else have that?
It's online.
Does that?
My online version is correct.
Oh, it sounds like our city clerk revised it and removed,
Other item, and then.
okay. Councilor, it sounds like it got revised due to a typo, so, it got corrected. So the one, we're looking at online, it looks like it's correct, as long as it's held.
I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Mayor, because I know that went out as a distribution and I didn't want people to be confused.
Thank you for pointing that out, appreciate it. So since we're covering it tonight, it is, item 8 for city manager residency waiver. So, council members, questions or comments on this agenda item?
Essentially, what we're being asked to do is approve the interim city manager to live in her house while she is interim city manager. And, I know where she lives, and she is correct. She almost lives closer to Safeway than I do. And, I live close to Safeway, so, I don't have any objection to this.
Mr. Mayor, I have no objection either.
I'm okay with it.
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor?
All right, I think everybody got a chance, so Councilor Suchi and, okay, motion by Councilor Suchi, second by Councilor Aguirre to approve a resolution waiving the provisions of RCW 35A.13.050, requiring the city manager to reside inside city limits and extend those residency requirements to the city of Sunnyside urban growth area. Is there any debate on this item?
No debate, Mr. Mayor, just a comment. This is nothing new, council, for those of you who are new. We've done this with many city managers in the past, and it's usually due to the fact that we don't have enough housing stock in our city in order to support what we need. So I wholeheartedly support this. And although Miss Alba, I don't know if you're going to look at becoming a permanent city manager, but I don't expect you to want to actually buy a home here in Sunnyside and move to Sunnyside. So.
He already has one.
Yeah, I am in Sunnyside actually, so I consider it as close as
But
I
you're-
can get it, like you said, not annexed in.
You're outside the city limits though, madam?
Yes, correct. I am physically outside the city limits, but I wouldn't want to have to try to find a house just to move a half a mile, basically into city limits.
Well, no, ma'am, and I understand that. I just want to make it clear to council, one of the reasons, and I stated this last time at the meeting, it's a very important reason why we require the city manager to live in the city. And that's because we as council members and the city manager produce the budget and we tax the people of Sunnyside. And we should not be taxing the people of Sunnyside if we're not taxing ourselves. So that's one of the major reasons why the manager must live in the city and why the council has to waive the seat.
Understood.
Thank you, Councilor Suchi. Is there no debate on this item? Hearing no additional debate, Madam Speaker, please do a roll call vote.
Counselor Bueller,
Yes.
Mayor Guerrero,
Yes.
Counselor Hart,
Yes.
Counselor Farmer,
Yes.
Counselor Hicks,
Yes.
Counselor Tucci,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burisma,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Council. Up next, we have items from council members. First is the mayor's appointments for boards and commissions. I have not received any applications. Jackie, do we know if we have anything yet for our vacancies that we have in our different commissions, boards?
We haven't received anything for the LTAC, which is, the one that we just announced was vacant. I did find, in contact with, Tom Denley, so he'll be attending the next LTAC meeting, so we're fine with him. I mean, it's the commission, the committee is fine with that. You did receive a resignation from Commissioner Deanne Howalter. And so,
Does that leave 2 vacancies in the plan commission?
yeah,
Plan commission? Okay.
I think so, I'll double check. But
Just one.
I think it may just be one, right? Just Deanne? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So just her vacancy. So if anyone is willing to serve in her seat, just submit an application to me and I'll forward it over to you. And then I was gonna ask if we can maybe get her a plaque, if that's okay.
I would wholeheartedly support it. She's been with us since
Absolutely.
I was there,
Okay.
so it's been a long time, so
Okay.
unless council objects to it, I think it'll be a great, way to thank her for her service to our community, and,
Heartily
I think it'll
agree.
be great for us to do so.
And I'll invite her to see if she'd like to attend the next meeting, and then, if it's okay with you, I'll also do one for her husband.
Mr. Mayor?
It's a civil service, I remember, so, I think that'll be excellent.
Okay.
Councilor
Mr. Mayor? Sir, I just wanted to inform council that Mrs. Howalter will not be available for a couple of weeks. So if you guys are making plans to bring her before the council and give her something it'll probably have to be next month, Mr. Mayor, just so you know.
Thank you for that information. It's going to be helpful. And is there a way, Madam City Manager, to maybe do for our social media page, maybe broadcast about our openings that we have for our, obviously, boards and commissions? Maybe someone's interested, or they know someone who might be interested or looking for those items. I know it's going to cost anything, but it's just a time of putting some message out and encouraging citizens to hopefully apply, or at least ask questions about it, and find somebody or encourage somebody who they might feel like it's a good fit for the city.
Yes, I believe we can do that. We'll get.
We'll start with that. Hopefully, we don't have to do anything else, but hopefully we get some interest in that social media page, if anything. Okay, up next, we have appoint 2 members to the Driving Rural Yapa Valley Economy General Membership. Is there one that's like a primary and an alternate? Is that what we say too? Okay. This is,
Henry.
okay.
So I.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir?
I can probably add some context since I just attended the drive and transaction meetings as a transportation commissioner. The last 2 people that we had were John Henry and Ron Stremler, and those are the two people they still have on their list.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Manager, go ahead.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Councilor Rustucci did for me.
Okay. So,
What's the requirements? What are the meetings? When are they? How often?
So when I attended those meetings, before Councilor Strummer took it over, it seemed like we met about once a month. Councilor, is that right, once a month? We met once a month, and it was a drive. It was a combined meeting between the drive and Transact, but we only voted on the drive portion of it once a month, and it was usually done at Union Gap at the DOT building in Union Gap, and I don't know, probably for an hour most of the time that is allotted for that. It's a lot of great information because it talks about funding coming in the pipeline for streets and major infrastructure. There's not a whole lot of money right now, but it does give some good information. I know our prior city manager attended some of those meetings when I was there, and I think Mr. Fisher attended a couple meetings as well. So it's not a whole lot of time commitment. It does have some good information. So if somebody's interested, by all means, please.
I believe I was your alternate.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Yes, sir?
To answer Mr. Farmer's questions, Mike, they have them in the afternoons, usually like 1:30 to 3 o'clock, an hour and a half, 2 hours. They've been doing Zoom, and the mayor's right, they have been doing joint meetings, although this month they separated. And drive and transaction met separately. And that's because they were voting on the projects that they wanted to send forward. Normally they'll meet with a joint meeting and they'll knock it out all together. But lately they have been separating. They have separated a couple of times to do specific things that are related to just drive or to related to just transaction. And so council's aware, these are nonprofit organizations. They contain civilians as well as elected officials. The object of these groups are to speak with one voice when it comes to what we're asking for transportation from both the feds and the state. And so that's what these groups do. They get input from WashDOT, they get input from the Transportation Commission, from me, and from all of the different public works agencies in the valley. So you hear from all the different organizations about their transportation projects. But I should let you know, this is not an official list, if you will. It's not the 6-year transportation improvement plan. It's not what goes before the COG or what gets submitted to WashDOT or the MPO or RTPO. This is specifically just so that we have a tool that we can work with in this valley to fight for the projects that we want, both at the state and the federal level.
And regular attendance is a representative in the senator's office there from the state of Washington. So they do have some, fairly good representation from their office, so, and they pass the message along from that group over to the senators, and it's just a value use of the time that we have, and, if somebody's interested, please, I think it'll be great for somebody to kind of, who hasn't been there before, to kind of get an idea what it's all about. Do you have any takers?
I think you might want to take a look at the thing on the wall there.
We have, when, Counselor Beeler came on board, you directed me to switch all of, Counselor Strumler to, Beeler, but I think they want an official.
Well, in that case, Councilor Peter, how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm already up there.
That's excellent, like I say, it's a great meeting. I think you find a lot of value there. You learn a lot of information about other people, what they're doing, major projects. I think it's a great, use of our time. So if you're okay with that,
I'm okay with that.
we'll sign you up for, their meetings, and, again, we'll have an alternate. Councilor Hicks, are you okay with being the alternate for that position?
Well, depends on days it falls on and times.
Specific date, they send the meetings out in advance, and they plan those, again, it's not like they're still doing Zoom, so do you think that might be an option?
Yeah, I just got the one for October, Mr. Mayor. Hold on, I'm looking right now.
And I do have to clarify that, Counselor Henry's, positions were replaced with your name on there.
Councilor Beal, right?
Yes, so Henry, Beeler was Henry, and then Strumler was Hart,
Yeah.
is what we did.
You know, I got an email myself, I just looked for it, see if I can find it real quick also.
Just as a matter of interest, could you remind me which committees I'm serving on?
So Drive supports the Lower Valley and Transaction supports the Upper Valley. So what we need is a representative to Drive, Mr. Mayor, not to Transaction.
Yes, Councilor Hart was just asking what, committees or groups he's in, so that would be universe.
Oh, okay. I'm more than happy to share the last couple of agendas and everything with the new members, and get them up to speed and connect them to the chair.
It looks like you don't have any on this. You're just on, everyone is on the, standing subcommittee, which is always 3 members. They haven't been meeting, but are available to meet anytime you wish.
You like to be alternate, madam,
Which,
to the Drive group?
Craig?
Councilor Hicks is not sure,
Well, then,
I know he's in a tough, coming with work, so I know it's gonna be hard, but,
absolutely, I would
You
do
okay with
that.
that?
Sure.
okay. So, those we have, Councilor, Bueller as a primary and Councilor Hart as an alternate for the Drive group.
yes.
So we are okay with that, okay? So if we could, will you notify him, or do you want to?
I can notify them, yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Clerk. Okay, so those two are taken care of. Up next, we have Lodging Tax Advisory Committee vacancy, representative of business required to collect taxes under chapter 67.28 RCW. Just a reminder that the seat's still vacant, so if anyone is interested, so this is someone who, who has applied for LTAC and received the letter, or the collector?
The other side.
The collector, okay.
That collects the lodging tax, just like, Mr. Beeler or Mr. Stanley.
So at this point, we will need, one of the other two hotels that we have in town who might be interested.
Correct, and the LTAC met last week, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, but one of the things I committed to doing is I'm gonna talk to a couple of different people and see if I can get a commitment from a motel manager or something along those lines. It's a tricky position to fill, and, we don't have a lot of individuals who collect this particular tax, and so, and then at the same time, we have even fewer who are really interested in serving on a committee, which makes it a little difficult. We've got plenty of people who are willing to serve, who receive funds, and to their credit, they do a great job of being very careful about how they spend those funds, but still, we need that voice from the other side. And so I'm looking for some time when I can get in and talk to some people and see if I can get a commitment.
So Deputy Mayor Burr, that would be definitely helpful, and I think that would complete your, obviously, the LTAC group that you are running at this point, so, okay. So thank you for that update, and, up next, we have council request status report, Mr. City Manager, Madam City Manager.
Report on city. So we have a disabled parking area at the senior center. I'm still looking into use of funds and trying to figure out if we would be allowed to use the ARPA money for that. It's kind of vague in the rules, so we could do it and then take a chance of it not passing muster when we're audited. So I want to try to make sure that I feel like I've got good backup on that, and when I do bring that forward, I will have everything that I can under this lovely final interim rule. Tree replacement plan, they're still going forward with that, nothing really new to report on that. Same thing with the guardrails. Police reserves, we had the chief report out that he has 4 reserves and 7 individuals that have applied. Still in talks with him on how to keep that program running with COVID and then all the new mandates they have. Roger Brooks, so this is one that we've had on here for quite some time, and we have looked at some of it. One of the things that I'm proposing is to start taking chunks of this and saying, okay, this is the portion we're going to focus on for the next 6 months and try to alleviate issues. So really, because I think that it was a lot of information and a lot of really good information, but I think hand in hand, we need to, first of all, have the code enforcement portion done, which means having Mr. Shuttleworth's, employees work with us to figure out, okay, is our sign ordinance up to date? Can we mandate people taking down the ugly signs? Can we insist on things being a certain look, feel, and color? So those are the kind of things that we'll be taking off in chunks in the next year, just so you know that's the approach that I'm going to take to that. I think that that's really the only way we can successfully take all of that information and start getting our city to look like it, to move forward. Water tower, I've met with Chase. He has been in town a couple weeks. I'm sure some of you know that he travels around the state doing murals for other places. So he's settled back in town. I actually saw him Saturday at the pop-up at Bondi's, and he had his display of his artwork and the murals that he's done. One of the requests that I had of him is his rendition of what goes on the water tower. I would really like to see sunflowers, as that represents our city flower. I think that represents us. It represents a beautiful yellow sun, and I think that it's something that would be different than what is seen at other water towers. Our first rendition had some fruit kind of at the bottom of Sunnyside, and then I took a trip to the Tri-Cities and came back and went, wow, that's going to look just like Grammy. So I thought, well, what can we do to incorporate something that is special and that is Sunnyside? So I'm recommending that we do some sunflowers on that, and he's working on that. So we're in the process of getting renditions. One of the things that Chase is having trouble with is he has to do this the legal way. So he has to make sure he has contractor license, business license, anything that has to be licensed, we're going to require it. He has to register on the small works roster, and he also has to get insurance. So So those are the things that are kind of slowing him down. But I think we are committed to having someone local do it and have someone do it that has a heart for Sunnyside. I think that that's important.
Are we gonna get to see a rough draft before he starts painting it?
Yes, yes. In fact, it wouldn't even be a rough draft. He'll bring a full-on artist rendition. And I've seen how he works. He has this really cool kind of, it's not even an iPad, it's a big kind of computer thing that he draws on, and he does renditions, like, very nicely done ones. So, yes, it'll, before we even vote on it, it'll come before the council.
Could we involve the Arts Commission
Well, they,
in this at all?
well, they have been.
They have been?
Yeah, they
Okay.
have met and talked about this. I caution with the Arts Commission, it took us several years to get a city flag. And that was a very painstaking process, so,
Yearly vote.
I think honestly, the council can make this decision. I don't think it needs to go to another committee. Not that I don't want them to be involved, because I think that, they do have a really good contribution to making our city look beautiful, but I think at this point, if we want to get it done, we need to probably move forward. Spring cleanup is another one that I want to talk to you about. We have issued over 200 vouchers to our citizens. We have had nothing but positive feedback on this, so I'm going to recommend that we actually continue this voucher program. We offer citizens once a year the chance to come and get a free voucher, go to the city dump. Like I reported before, our first bill was just a little over $1,000, and that is so much less expensive than the staff time that it takes to do a dump day. And we also really have found that this has helped our code enforcement officer. He keeps some of the flyers in his rig, and if he has a residence that he's responding to, and they say, I've got this and that, and he hands them one and says, apply, this is free, you can take a whole load up there. We at one point had thought about limiting it, not doing tires or appliances or things like that. But then we decided that, if somebody needs to get rid of those, take them. If they're sitting outside, we don't want your tires sitting outside. We want you to be able to take things, and really, we haven't had anyone abuse it. So we're wanting to continue that project. Then the increase in planning and community development and staff, we added that. I know Mr. Shuttleworth spoke with HR yesterday or today, Friday or today, concerning staff, and I think we've got an action plan. Is that correct, Mr. Shuttleworth?
Yes, we got, at least for the code enforcement, we have up to 5 people within the city employment already that have applied for it, so we'll go outside.
That's our council status report.
Can we remove the chip sealing? I'm satisfied that, we've gotten our reports for the chip sealing that we did, and, not to be on there any longer.
There were a few of these that we removed last time, but I'm assuming that the changes didn't get saved
Okay.
on my, making them here, and they're not making their way over there. Could be the same thing, but I'll take this one out.
And,
And let me put the spring cleanup one off. I'll double
thinking-
check.
yeah, I'm thinking that sounds familiar to me as well. Since we're doing
I'll go
something,
ahead and just take it off if that's okay with you, Counselor Hart. I really took it down.
yeah,
There's a
I'll come
note.
up with something now.
And I'd like to add something on there. I know we went through this a while back and didn't quite go as successfully as we had planned initially, but our prosecutor and judge RFP like we did a while back, we had a major hiccup with that one, so we can just put it back on and see where, or when we want to kind of continue with that process, on a regular basis versus, just extending the contract indefinitely for a number of years.
Oh, and I will let you know that the judge's contract does expire at the end of this year, so, I'll be trying to figure out what our next steps are, in that area.
And, for the prosecutor, I know that one had expired and we would just, like renew it automatically. Are we looking at doing that as well?
I think we should, see what direction we go with the judge, and then we'll follow through. I have a suggestion that, maybe we revamp the entire process and try to hire a prosecutor slash city, it's an actual staff. We were successful at that in the past, but I don't know if that's something that you would be interested in, but I think that we probably need to change our approach to this process.
We get a couple options, I guess, that
Yeah.
we have, so to compare versus just one item that may not fit everybody's taste and, options is good.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Council, any additional items you want to add to the council request out report? All right, hearing none, our next agenda item is going to be other reports, announcements, and questions by council. Council members, reports, announcements, questions. I know a few of you guys went to the Sunshine Day, so you want to report anything on anything they did in the last couple of weeks?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I did, I'm sure others did as well. I attended the parade. It was interesting to me, there were 28 entries in this year's Sunshine Days Parade, the first one after more than a year of not getting to have one. We missed 2 parades, and then this last Saturday we had one. Oddly, I don't know that it's odd, but perhaps it's worth a note that none of the entries wanted to be judged. They just wanted to be in the parade. And the only one who took home a trophy was the Prosser royalty. They were the only ones that said, yeah, we want a trophy. Everyone else said, no, we just want to do this for our community. One of the most popular of the, at least from everyone I talked to, was the Forgotten Soldier and the 9/11 salutes that happened this was the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Those are very popular. People were just really happy to see the parade back, and we're encouraged that things are starting to open up little bit by little bit, and they're very much looking forward to the farm implement parade now. So I also got to go to the Sunnyside pageant. Also, another thing we hadn't seen in 2 years. The girls who, Mr. Mayor, the girls who were served for 2 years, I don't know that you've given them a mayor's claim. You may have already, but I certainly think having gone through both the full pandemic year, not having their pageant, the girls were never able, they were able to represent the community as ambassadors. They did a fabulous job, and they did go to different things like Child Miracle Network fundraisers. They did they got to do a few parades and pageants and some ribbon cutting. And I just really think that you could see your way fit to give them the mayor's coin. That would be really, really well received.
I agree.
And
We can look at that,
so the new, I don't know if you saw or not, but the new Miss Sunnyside her name is Alexis Disky. And she's already looking forward to her project, which is going to be teaching old people how to dance, which I think is kind of funny, because there's quite a few old people who could probably teach her some moves. But in any case, she's very excited about that. Really good performance, really good performance at the pageant, along with the other girls, Mara Roberts, I forget somebody, Maria Herrera, and our girl. What's the other girl's name? But
these just come forward also here, don't they, for something, Ken also?
yes, and if we can have them come and get their little Sunnyside pin, they'd be delighted to do that. I'm sure it'd be really exciting for them. But anyway, that was my weekend, and it was really lots and lots of fun.
Thank you for that.
So, Mr. Mayor, as the chair of the LTAC committee, coming up to Sunshine Days, there was a little bit of nerves. I fielded a couple of phone calls from the folks organizing this. They were uncertain what to do. Other communities, other events were being canceled. They had conversations with the folks in Prosser who said, whatever you do, we cancel, don't cancel. We did, and we regret it. So, you know, there was an awful lot of, because we had to cancel Cinco de Mayo, because we had to cancel, you know, everything up previous to this, there was some nerves, and,
Yeah.
I think they are to be commended for going forward. There were entries that were kind of slow to come in, and so there was, some concern about that, but yet they came in. And so I just want to commend, you know, A&A Productions and everybody that they pulled in. I think they did a fantastic job. She really poured herself into this project, and so I'm extremely pleased with that. And I want to echo Ms. Hart's comments about our outgoing Miss Sunnyside Court. They served for 2 years, and, you know, it was a tough year, or a tough 2 years for them, and they had to do a lot, and they do definitely deserve some recognition for that. And it wasn't what they were planning on doing. They didn't want it to go this way. Nobody did, but they did an excellent job, and I think that we can be very proud of those young ladies. They represented our city quite well. Further news with LTAC, we met last week and we saw the proposals for this upcoming year. And this week, Wednesday, we are getting together Wednesday morning to make recommendations on the proposals that came in. And we will bring that to council at our next council meeting. And be able to get a vote on that and move forward. But we are optimistic that we will be able to hold events in the order that they're supposed to be held. So that's the assumption we're working with at this point.
Deputy Mayor, we have it scheduled the 22nd, so next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. I'm sorry, I'm 1 week off.
I'll make sure to message you so that in case it's on your calendar.
I'll double check, but I knew it was coming up sometime. I probably did write it down for this week, but.
And then, for council consideration on the 27th.
27th. Yeah, it's still our next council meeting, but yeah, you are correct, Jackie. Thank you.
Councilor, anyone else for reports, announcements, on-door questions?
I'll just say that I echo what my other two council members have said. It was nice to see the city getting out and starting to come together again. It's been a long time. I think we can, proud of what happened, proud of the work that was done, and look forward to it happening again next year.
It's nice seeing events on that, gravel where they tore down an old building. Everybody missed that.
The complaint I heard that about the parade is there wasn't enough food offered.
But the food that was offered was really, really good.
Food trucks were hard to come by. We just couldn't, just couldn't get people to commit to coming in. So.
But there were some other events going on too in the area that might have pulled those
People
away as
wanted
well.
curly fries, they wanted corn, they wanted, it's like,
Hey, open up your truck wagon, let's go.
Council, anyone else?
I have other items, Mr. Mayor, but not for this.
Okay, do you want to do it on this time, because up next we only have our upcoming council meeting.
Well, actually, don't we have items from council members? Aren't we doing that right now?
That's what we're doing right now, sir.
That's
Okay.
right now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I want to remind council that the Yakima Valley Conference of Governments will hold its general membership meeting virtually at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, September 15th. We're being hosted by the city of Grandview for the event. The two items on the agenda are the homeless and housing assistance program discussion regarding the county and the cities. So I really need one of our representatives there, because we are going to ask for a vote on that document. And then the other one, Mr. Mayor, is this is our annual report by the state legislature. And so we have, I got RSVPs from Representative Chandler, Representative Corey, Representative Ibarra, Representative Defoe, Representative Dent, Congressman Newhouse's office, Senator Murray's office, Senator Curtis King, Senator Judy Warnick, Senator Jim Honeyford. So far, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor, but we'll have a pretty good meeting with a lot of good information. So I recommend, if you can attend, that'd be great. It will be online, and I'll make sure if you don't get the notifications, I can get it to you.
Councilor Restucci, I am on the YB-COG, the person for council, and I am planning on being in attendance.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And then, Mr.
You'd be
Mayor,
kind- If you could forward me the link for the Zoom, I would appreciate that.
will do, sir. And then the following, Mr. Mayor, the State Transportation Commission will be meeting the 20th and 21st. We'll be doing our virtual meeting in Spokane, so we'll be hearing from legislators and transportation officials in the Spokane area. That's all I have right now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Restucci. Okay, up next, the auditors have a request to schedule a formal risk assessment meeting in regard to our 2020 audit. Is there a council member or council members willing to participate in that meeting in the next week?
What day?
It's just, when, do you have a date, Jackie?
Whenever is selected is available.
I can make myself available.
Mr. Mayor, is this the entrance conference?
It's a risk assessment, that must be something else.
Okay.
Councilor Hart, if nobody else wants to attend as well?
The date you guys can come up, that works for me. If not,
And this is next week.
anytime within.
This week?
Oh, this week?
I can just say, it will only take about, she'll call you, and it will only take about 10 minutes.
Oh, that can be done anytime.
Anytime then.
Yeah, I thought we got old school, long, hour long meeting, but
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
yeah, we'll do that anytime.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she'll meet with you individually to do risk assessment. It won't be a group meeting.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
All right, in that case, we got that
Perfect.
covered. Up, next we have upcoming council meetings, Madam City Manager.
So on the agenda for the 27th, Jackie is adding our Miss Sunnyside Court, incoming and outgoing, to be present if they can be. We also have the second public hearing of the U.S. Cellular Small Cell 5G franchise agreement. We will probably immediately after that do the U.S. Cellular Small Cell franchise agreement signature authorization. And we will do the modem installation services, and what that consists of is we purchased the modems for our police cars. There's 20 of them that we purchased. We now have to contract with someone to actually get them installed. Because we have so many different varieties of vehicles, starting with 2005s and ultimately probably ending with 2022s, we've decided to put that in the hands of the professionals and make sure that it's installed correctly. So it's going to be a proposal brought forward for a little under $9,000. And then the last item is the LTAC funding recommendations that we've already spoken of. On October 3rd, I believe it is, I can't tell the date. September 20, no, that was September 25th. I'm out of the budget hearing. And the dates are all cut up on the screen. And I'm sorry, my laptop battery died, so I'm relying on my brain right now. I just said 8:30 or 8:47, kind of, it's not so great. So October 4th workshop, we'll have our budget workshop. And then you'll start seeing in the future any agenda items that relate to budget will start coming up. We'll be starting all of the regular things that we do for budget.
Thank you. Next thing up, items from the department.
Oh, it looks like I get to keep talking again, yay. So I wanted to let you know that I did attend the DRIVE meeting, and we had, I believe, 2 proposals that met the top 6. So I will get you the itemized list of those and make sure that you know where we're at in project status for the DRIVE committee. And I will be attending those meetings as much as I can. It is, as I've expressed in the weekly brief, it's my desire to try to attend as many local meetings as I can and then regional would be next, and then state, and then nationwide. But I think that it's important that I'm at regional things to also keep us kind of in the loop on what's going on in our area. And then speaking of the weekly briefs, I wanted to poll the council to see if you're liking the content, if you're still wanting those via email, if there's something else that works better. Just wanted to get feedback on that.
Council members, what do you think about, the Friday evening or, end of the week, brief that we get?
I really appreciate that, but know what's going on through those briefs. They're very useful to me, also as preparing for council meetings and so forth.
I would agree with Councilor Hart, Mr. Mayor. You know, it's one of those things that Don Day started. Other managers have tried it in the past and it didn't work very well. Don Day did a very good job, but Martin Casey perfected it. We got one every single Friday. I would like to see that continue. When I don't get a chance to meet with the manager during the week, it's my one communication that I get from her that kind of brings me up to speed on what's going on in the city for that week.
Okay, so I'll just continue those as I have been. I also kind of like them because what I'm doing, and I'll tell you, the biggest fear I have is dropping the ball. And so I keep a notebook when someone calls me or I have a meeting and I take little notes. And then I also have a phone log that I'm keeping so that when someone calls me and I need to return their call, I have that. So I use those as also to kind of build, oh, well, what did I do this week and, you know, what's coming up. So the last item that I want to talk to you about is that I attended a museum board meeting, and this will be the first of many meetings that I attend that are local. I plan to go to, I'm going to go to the Lions Club. I'm going to go to the Senior Citizens Club. I will be at the Planning Commission meeting tomorrow night, so this is my chance to start connecting with the people that live here and work here and care about this place. So the museum board meeting was very enlightening. I'm not sure that the city has attended those very often. I think that it's been hit and miss over the years. And there's not been a real clear liaison in the last 4 or 5 years on who's supposed to be the staff liaison with the museum. I was unaware that we've been asking our museum board to purchase janitorial supplies and regular paper product supplies for the museum when that's our facility. So I directed them to start sending their invoices to accounts payable and having the city pay for those kinds of items. They have a very small budget, and I didn't think that that was very fair to ask them to pay for the things that the city should be paying for that really does not cost us very much. It really does cost them when they have so little funds. The other thing that I did is I had an opportunity to go into the attic and verify the roof structure. I have some photographs on my phone, which I will be bringing forward with a presentation for council to get a new engineering estimate, figure out how to get this roof fixed and solved, and finally get this building in the shape it needs to be in. They have a storage issue. They also would really like to have a welcome center or a visitor center and have that be a part of their campus. So I might be trying to figure out how we could possibly get a visitor center that's adjacent to the museum with some storage in it. So that's one idea that we all kind of floated forward. We've all talked about that is something that is in dire need here, is a visitor center or someplace for people to go to actually get information about what to do and how to do things in Sunnyside. So the museum actually wants to do something like that. Other things that came about are just, you know, regular, like I said, I'm going to be hiring, or not hiring, but having a staff liaison that goes to those meetings when I can't go, that hears their problems, that talks to them, says this is what their needs are, and then brings that back to us to try to solve what problems we have there. And I'm hoping that as I go around to these different departmental meetings and also different community meetings, that I have an opportunity to hear what the people are saying and what's going on.
Ms. Alba, I don't know if you realize too, that at one time we had a council liaison on the museum board.
I believe so.
And I was that liaison at one time, and I don't know if anybody's been attending meetings since then. But, yeah, at one time the council was involved in that as well. And I too have seen the roof structure in the attic, and it is, well, there's some work has been done on it.
It's time. It looked, when I was taking photographs, it reminded me of my house that was built in 1901 when I was trying to.
You do know when that museum was built, right?
Yeah, right around the same time. So, anyway, I think that there's some things that we can do, and this ARP money, I believe we can probably use it. It is a tourism-related facility, so we can probably use that money to get the roof upgraded. So I'll be researching that and bringing that forward to council. And then lastly, this weekend, I had the privilege of going to the pop-up at Bonzi and the pop-up at French Vanilla Market. French Vanilla Market was very busy, but they had a lot of really neat things and cool vendors. At Bonzi, they let me know that they're going to be having different vendors in over weekends. So this is something that they're going to do a couple more times while the weather's still good. And I really encourage everyone to try to, support these local people that are, doing something small, trying to get their businesses off, and don't have storefronts yet. So it was a great weekend, like you said, to see the American flag up with our firefighters and have a parade. And, at Sunnyside, it just felt like we were finally back in business a little bit, and it was. So now with that, I will pass it over to Fire Chief Ken Anderson to report out for the fire department. Mr. Shutterworth, would you like to report out?
I have nothing new other than we are looking at going through the hiring process for those two.
And Ms. Warner.
I do not have anything to report.
Oh, right under the gun, we still have 6 more minutes on my computer, so I think it's the longest meeting we have in a long time. So thank you, council, for your patience. In the future, I'll send this to my fellow and try to keep it a little bit, shorter than this, but, if there's no more business to come before council, and without objection, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:54 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night at this point.
Thank you, and good night.
And good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.